English football academies are supposed to be the stepping stone to success, the springboard, if you will, for the homegrown stars of tomorrow. But inside those very same academies, there's a growing problem. A recent study conducted by UEFA revealed that more than 2/3 of Premier League players are born overseas. That's the highest proportion of any of the major European leagues, indeed the highest proportion of any of the 175 leagues that UEFA examined. While there is undoubted young English talent, as demonstrated with the recent success on the international youth stage, very few players get a chance with their parent Premier League club. Indeed, very few get a chance in the top flight at all. Thousands of players fall out of the academy system every year, their chances and dreams of playing professionally in danger. And many of those players are left to their own devices if they want to pursue that dream of a career in the game. Through a series of conversations, we'll find out what really is happening inside our academies and what can be done for the players who don't make the grade. Noel, how did you first get into football?
The apprentice before the scholarship, what they call them now. So we had to do all the duties, cleaning boots, change rooms, etc. Great grounding.
We'd be cleaning the gaffer's car, we'd be cleaning the coach's cars, and then you come back in and say, you know, it's not done well enough, you go back out and do it again. Just what you do, you just build experience and get respect for it, you know.
The academy system went out when I was coming through as a football. It was centre of excellence, so you go and train, you could go and train at Liverpool, Everton, Tranmere. There was A and B teams and reserve teams, so it was a different way of football then.
And do you think some kids are scouted into the academy system too young?
I think when you're putting pressure on 7, 8-year-olds to perform week in, week out to keep their place within the academy, I don't understand why clubs get players in at 7 years of age and give them that dream at 7 years of age. And when they get to 14 and 15, they've lost the love of the game. I think up until sort of 12 or 13, I think they should be playing Sunday morning football with their mates, playing for cups, playing for trophies.
I think the kids go to academies far too young. You should be in an academy at 8 years old. What are you going to achieve being in an academy? Well, you just get used to training 4 or 5 times a week, and come 16, you might have had enough anyway. You might just want to walk away, you know.
If that kid gets to 17, 18, 19 and he's not, then what? You turn around and say, well, so-and-so from Man City under 6s said my kid was going to be the next Aguero.
I've not been at many clubs. I've only been at one club when I was younger, which was Man City. I remember not enjoying it at all. I thought it was too much pressure at an early age. You had to be at a set standard, and not everyone was at that set standard. They wanted you to be big and tall, and I wasn't. I was very small. So they kind of overlooked them players, and I was one of them.
Kids are scouted and inducted into academies at a young age, often losing out on the fun part of their recreational years. And with the pressure and expectation of life in academy football, some fall out of love with the game. Do you think academies need to look after kids that are released better than they do right now?
Yeah, basically, if you get released from academy, that's you done. You have no real contact with your coach that you've had probably for 5, 6, 7 years. Sometimes you'll get a good manager or a good coach that will put you in touch with another football club, but the chances are you've been sort of put out to pasture and you won't get another opportunity elsewhere. It's a harsh world.
I've been messed around a lot as well. I've been told about pro trials and that, and it's just, they haven't happened at the end of the day. Out of the academy, I think every age group, I think it's 3 make it into a scholar, so it's 7 just released, and it's just, yeah, it's harsh.
I think they do need to do more, but it's not going to happen because at the end of the day, as a footballer, you're a commodity to a football club. When you're at the end of your contract, they don't really have to help you.
Well, I played all pre-season and I got injured. I did my elbow ligaments, tried to come back, didn't get an answer, just got my text ignored and everything, so he didn't ever speak to me. He would never send a message back or anything. And I sent many messages, I could show you all of them, but it's just the way it is.
We've had players that are low on confidence, they've trialled and ultimately been told they're not good enough, or they're not ready yet. Drake being one of them. He was recently trialled at Port Vale, was given 1 hour training session, said he was fantastic for a midget. My frustration would be, how can they judge that over an hour period? So it is sometimes about that man management of just picking the player up and letting him know that he's doing the right things, and his chance will come.
In the initial stage of the club, they said, well, we've arranged for you to have a trial, and then after a week or 2 weeks, you don't hear anything from the club. If they're going to release a player, they'll tell a player by the end of February, and now the season finishes in sort of May. That player now becomes into a massive pool of players. The players that are releasing, they don't play them. They get no games. So what's happening to that player now? You want to take him somewhere for a trial, he's got no football fitness because he's not being played. They can't go to a club and say, can I have a trial? It doesn't happen. You'll actually get into North Korea quicker now than you can get into a football club now. Those days have gone where clubs will open the doors for players.
Would you say academy bosses are focusing too much on athletes now rather than standout footballers?
The system now is looking for people who run 13, 14k a game rather than who can control and pass a ball. That's what we're playing football. The talent sort of getting turned a blind eye to for someone who can jump 3 foot higher.
Ultimately, as a player, you've got to be able to deal with the ball. And you might be able to run 12,000 metres very hard, but if you can't control the ball, forget the stats.
When Arsene Wenger first came over to Arsenal, he went out and just bought physical players. He said, I can teach him how to play football. I can't teach him to be 6'2" and can run around the pitch for 90 minutes. Academies and most clubs do look for big physical players, and hopefully they'll teach them how to play football. They can teach them the technical side of the game.
If they're big, they're strong, they're quick, they work hard, that will fit the criteria. But with a small kid, the way we play in this country, would Coutinho really come through our system? I don't know. But now you've got a system now where it's stepped up now. You've got the 19s, you've got the under-23s, and they don't play for anything.
Would you say the under-23 league is too weak and actually in some ways preventing players from graduating to first-team football?
I don't think it prepares players for professional football and for grown-up men's football. There's not about playing for 3 points and actually winning games and league tables, relegations and promotions.
The under-23s essentially are trying to get into the first team. Are they going to get into the first team, most of them? No. So therefore, you should be trying to make a pathway for them to go and play league football, where it becomes a bit more competitive, where you're playing against men. You can't just keep playing against your own age group. There's got to be a time where you're going to be recognised as a footballer.
My personal opinion is that academies and all these centre of excellences take away the real nitty-gritty of football. The big burly centre-halves who will get in with his elbows and his first tackle will take you out to let you know he's there, so they do miss out on that education side of the game.
I think there has to be a slight adjustment of the 23s league. I think the games sometimes it can be more challenging for the players. I just sometimes fear that it becoming a little bit of more training sessions.
The games are weak as well, very, very weak. You know, you have this academy against that academy. Their coaches are exactly the same. They go on the same course as these coaches, so it becomes tippy-tappy. The player went to the academy because he was different. They picked him up on a Saturday or Sunday because he was different. Then all of a sudden they think, we're going to take him in. They take him in, and within 3 months, he's the same as the rest of them, just robotic. And that's what academy football is, robotic.
What kind of obstacles are preventing youngsters from getting first team experience?
I think managers try and mould players into what they want them to be, rather than take them, the individual as they are. But I think a lot of that comes down to the pressure that's on the manager or the coach at the time.
I think ultimately, if you're going to be, how many 19-year-olds are better than Sergio Aguero? Not many.
One of the problems, what I see a lot of, is that a lot of academies don't mix with first teamers. And I believe that the whole football club, if you're part of the football club, then you should be mixing. If you're one day doing well and they want to call you up to the first team and you've not been mixing, all of a sudden you go over to the pitch where the first team are training, you could just be in awe of it.
They would be recommended to the first team, but at present the first team have got a squad of 20, so they've picked their squad, and would they really bump somebody they've signed on a contract for a youth player at present who's sort of untested at this level?
Do you think fans still want to see local homegrown players in and around their first team, or is it now just about the best team?
Obviously, I'm an Everton fan and a Tranmere fan, and if a lad from Liverpool is playing for the teams, I do think of it. He's a Scouser, he's playing for the teams. There's more Scousers playing for Tranmere Rovers than Everton and Liverpool in the first team. I like to watch them because, you know, they're from the same city. But them big, massive clubs is, you know, they want to win, don't they?
I think that they want to see a good player, firstly. If that player is a local player, I think that adds a little bit more spice, and they do care a bit.
People don't want to take chances with young lads. They want to put the best side out. Maybe they mightn't trust that young lad 100% yet. For a manager, it's a massive risk.
For the players that do achieve some early success with a scholarship or a first professional contract, that's just the start. Some are very well rewarded before even playing their first senior match. Would you fear that some youngsters are now focusing more and more on the fame and fortune that might go with being a footballer rather than actually being the best possible player that he or she can be?
I think it's definitely making players more complacent. You look at some of the sort of players at Chelsea and players like that playing in their under-21s, earning sort of £500,000 a year, £1 million a year, driving around big Mercs, got £1 million houses around the place, but have never kicked a football for their first team. You know, and I think that is wrong.
I know there's a lot more professional contracts given out these days. Years ago, it never used to just be like that. You got a YTS, you used to have to earn your stripes.
I think in youth football, yeah, it's become crazy for the younger players. I think some of them get too comfortable too easy because I've achieved what I wanted to do, and a lot of them, once they get that, can get complacent. I think in my generation, people wanted to become footballers because they love playing football. I think this generation want to become footballers because some of them want to be famous and want the money. So I think it's a different person now that wants to play football.
Desire, commitment, character, attitude comes first. Young kids don't think like that.
Some young kids are on an absolute fortune, and I think people can sit at a club and be on substantial amounts of money and get really comfortable, and I've seen that.
I would argue that no matter who the person is, depending on the figures, what the people are talking about, it'll bound to sort of affect you in some way or shape or form.
But I've just got a scenario at this moment in time where there's a kid who's been playing in League 2 in front of 10,000 people every week, week in, week out, on £1,000 a week. But now he's just signed for an under-23 side because I'm giving £2,200 a week. So now he's playing in front of 150, 200 people. So what do? Do you turn that money down or don't you turn that money down? I suppose a lot of kids will be genuine about it and say that they want to go on, regardless of what they're getting, they want to go and make it. But there's the other side of it. You've got to look at it and think, well, you know, you make A1 and sun shines, don't you? If somebody offers you £2,200 a week, opposed to £1,000 a week, some people won't take it because they want to stay at the football club playing in front of 10,000. But certain people will go and say, I'm going to play for the money. It's just a human nature, isn't it?
Do you think some players are being fed a false dream as youngsters and actually should be given more preparation for life after football?
As a kid at 6 or 7 to go and tell the parents he's going to be the next, Wayne Rooney, then it's a bit hard to accept if they don't.
Parents need to not think that the kids are going to be football players, because not every kid can make it, let's be honest about it. But I think once a kid leaves a football club, that is when reality checks in. I think you just got to speak to people and be level-headed about it. It's all about common sense at the end of the day, isn't it? You want him to be a footballer, but you've got to continue doing other things, haven't you? You can't just rely on being a footballer at the age of 10.
And also clubs need sometimes, from my experience, need to support the players better. They leave the clubs. They've been with their clubs sometimes since the age of 9. They're now 16. What are they going to do? And something has to be put in place. Not I say the clubs, but the authorities should put something in place that ensure the clubs, ensure that the clubs release the players in sufficient time to help the players to find something else. Because it's not happening with the players at the moment. And that's why a lot of the young lads, they become disheartened.
A strategy or system needs to be implemented nationally to help those youngsters that fall out of academy football at an important age. And that needs to be consistent amongst all football clubs.
And they do get sold the dream, and the actual number of players that actually make it when they're sold the dream is minimal. That's why scholarship schemes like the one that I'm doing and are happening all over the country, I think are brilliant, because it does give players another opportunity. So when they do get released, they have got an education background that they can go into, and they have got a football environment that they can go into, and they can still enjoy their academics and they can still enjoy their football.
You know, sometimes I look at academies and think that for some of the lads, you know that they're here for the other players and they're not going to be players. I think hopefully being in a sport, in a team environment, in a professional culture will help them in any part of life. We try and help them to get other clubs. We try and help them. Some boys go back to university. Our job is to help them.
My first and foremost thing is education. I believe it can change your life.
Just my sort of life philosophy is to go and give yourself something to fall back on. I always try and encourage the lads to get something else, study at college, go and get a job with a pathway, or something to fall back on.
And are some clubs releasing young players before they really get the chance to prove how good they are?
The one thing I would say with youth football in this country is that we release players too early. Give the players more time.
Some boys don't need to go out on loan. Some people do. Some people develop at 18, 19. Morgan Gibbs-White's in our first team at 17 and doesn't look out of place. Other boys take till they're 20, 21, so a lot of it can depend on the person, their personality, sometimes their environment, their family. There's lots of different reasons why they all come through, but they definitely come through at different speeds.
A lot of talent. See Dele Alli? Dele Alli was a late developer in our England system. Didn't come into under-17s. Eric Dyer came into the system late, came in under-18s. A lot of late developers, as in all walks of life. Your Jordan Hendersons, your Chris Smallings, late developers come through later. And we all think it's doom and gloom, but it's not. I've seen there's a lot of talent there, but need opportunities. Got to give them opportunities, because they talk about they want experience. How do you get experience if you don't play? Oh, his manager's got his career's too short. Well, you're actually running the business, you're running the football club. And the youth development system is part of your club. It's not just about the first team, because when the first team finishes and they move on, you've got to find them from somewhere.
Starting in an academy at such a young age can be damaging for aspiring footballers. Youngsters can fall out of love for the game that they once adored, leaving them disillusioned. At their core, football academies are a good idea. Clearly the facilities are often excellent, the coaching is of a very high standard, but the ethos in some academies can be questioned. Many youngsters are brought through the system, often with the idea that just a few will make the grade. Despite what many clubs may say, for many youngsters coming out of the academy system, there is simply not the support structure. What can be done to help those youngsters with a change of life? That's the question that the powers that be need to answer. In short, it's a system that is flawed still, and that clearly needs to be addressed.